This is the April 11th, 2024 meeting of the Monmouth Planning Board. I'm Stephen O'Donnell, the chair, and I'm calling the meeting to order. We have one member who called and is absent tonight, Rick Brandt. We've got Dave Mills, Larry Saucier, myself, and Ray as regular members, Ray Simon, Bonnie Green, and Dave Shaw as alternates. I think, Bonnie, you were a voting member at the last meeting, so Dave will be the voting member tonight. You can vote on minutes and, regular planning board matters, but not the official items on the agenda for old or new business.
Okay.
So the first item is the minutes of the last meeting. We have a motion to approve those minutes.
I move that we approve the minutes as written, presented. Second.
Okay, any discussion on the minutes? There being none, all in favor of accepting the minutes? Dave, you weren't here.
That's
Bonnie, you can vote for that then. So it's Bonnie voting 5-0 to approve the minutes. Bonnie and Dave both voted.
Steve, who seconded?
Dave did. Okay. Old business, we still have Lake Star subdivision. That's continues to be tabled. I think until they hear from DEP and they provide us with other information. So we'll pass on that. The next item under old business is the Solar America energy application for a solar project at 235 South Monmouth Road, tax map 8, lot 2 in Monmouth. We were supposed to have a site visit last Thursday, but because of the storm, we have put that off. I think we're going to try to do it next week at 5:30. And so if there are people here, we'll try to get, I don't know how easy it is to get something up on the website.
I can do it.
Just so people know they want to attend that site visit. That will be a week from tonight, 5:30. So tonight we'll hear from the applicant. We're just going to go through and kind of see where we are as far as completeness of the application. So we have two people from Solar America here. Who's here tonight?
I'm Lauren from Solar America Energy, and I'm also joined with Tom, who's our TRC, who prepared the site plan and application for us.
I don't think we got your name, Lauren, at the last meeting, your last name.
Bedun.
How do you spell it?
Bedun.
All right. So which one of you kind of wants to give a summary to the audience of what is proposed?
I'm gonna walk through the. So we have a 1 megawatt AC solar facility. This is a community scale solar facility, approximately 6 acres of the fence line, 41 acre parcel. I'm just gonna walk through the site plan and for the details. There's very minimal impact, tree clearing proposed, and minimal wetland disturbances for this site.
This video can see it too, but so what we're proposing here is a 0.99 megawatt AC solar facility off the corner of Fish Hatchery Road and South Monmouth Road. You're familiar with the area. It's a large open farm field. There used to be a building here that's since been removed and demolished. It's kind of a overgrown paved area down here on the side of the road. Our access road is going to extend from South Monmouth Road, about think about 700 or 800 feet into the array area. These green areas are delineated wetlands. The pink hatching is a different classification of wetland. It's called a loss, a wetland of special significance. It's a classification by Maine DEP. Overall, there's a pretty low impact for this project. No tree clearing is required. Existing topography is suitable for the type of solar array that we're installing. So outside of the road and some of the trenching is very little earth that's required. There's an existing vegetated hedgerow here that blocks this abutter. There are some trees along South Monmouth Road and Fish Hatchery Road, and then we've got what I would consider a pretty robust planting plan around the perimeter, trying to visual screening. We are at least 200 feet away from the property boundary with all solar array components. Generally, that's the overview.
There's gonna be a perimeter fence.
Correct, 7 foot tall perimeter security fence. Yeah. Typically, we do like a fixed knot farm agricultural fence with the larger gaps, so things that help.
So underneath, like. And that will be approximately how far in from, say, South Monmouth Road will the fence start?
From South Monmouth Road, it's about 600 or 700 feet from that road there. From Fish Hatchery, we're closer. It's about 180 feet to the fence and then 200 feet.
How close, I see the pink. It's limited there. Yeah, how close is the array to that pink? If the pink designates special areas, how much effect is the array gonna have on that?
Very little, we're avoiding disturbance of these areas, so it gets into the nuance of wetland delineation and the classification of the state, but these are basically kind of wet spots in the farm field. And because this whole wetland complex is contiguous with this area down here, which is a state habitat, inland wave bird and waterfowl habitat. So because this wetland overlaps with that, that's why it gets that classification. So in general, it's just a kind of a wet spot in the field. The panels are gonna be about 20 feet away from it, and the fence will be, within a couple feet of the water.
So it's not gonna have any effect on the wading birds or,
Oh. Kept that old. They're in. At least one person.
So we've designed and set the array to minimize impacts to natural resources. We will need a permit by rule with the Maine Department of Environmental Protection. The stormwater permit by rule has been submitted and accepted and approved. We submitted the NERPA PBR this week. And that's basically to cover that adjacency. So because we're close to those wetlands within 25 feet, DEP will require a permit. And then we do have a small amount of wetland impact here. It's an existing farm road. The drainage is kind of poured through here. We're gonna put in a new culvert when our road crosses that area. We'll have a little bit of wetland impact for that area, but it's exempt from DEP permitting because of the impact.
So how much of the parcel are you actually gonna be leasing? You're gonna be, you've got 6 acres that are gonna be developed, is that?
Yeah, approximately 6 acres for the fence.
And so are you utilizing the other acreage or what's?
We'll be leasing the area with the solar facility improvements on it. So the lease acreage isn't final at this point. Right now, we have an option to lease, so, but it would just.
Yeah, and then a large chunk of the property actually extends off the sheet down here, and that's not buildable.
I don't know if they've been haying that
You know,
parcel.
my father's been haying it since I was born.
So they're still doing it? Are someone still haying?
Yeah, and we have those sandhill cranes that have now nested out there. Every year we see 5, there was 3 of them, now there's 5. Every year they come back.
And is that in the area beyond the array?
And right in the middle of that fence, the one closest to our house.
Fish Hatchery Road.
Speaking of which, that our land does this and your solar panel does this. On the closest part, is that 200 feet?
We're 200 feet from all property lines, yes, based on the survey.
But no, the sandhill cranes are right about.
They in this area?
Nope. No, I'll show you. Where they typically are sleeping. So Where they typically come is down around here, is where they normally spend their day. With your house, right here. It's there somewhere, yeah, so they're down right in here, and down in here is where the Sand Hill Parades always are.
Yeah, I'll just comment on that. I'm not sure what your protocol is. My name's Steve Smith. I have the property right on the other side of the pine trees. Yes, right there. And I agree. I mean, the sandhill cranes are very rigorous in that area on a consistent basis this time of year. We see them all the time. We hear them all the time.
I think from about mid-April to. Yeah, snowfall, the beginning of November, they're there. They've really taken a liking to the area. Last year they had a baby with them.
Hmm.
Anyone else got questions on the board?
I don't know what your, again, your protocol. I'll let the board go.
Well, yeah, I'm usually, and I should have said something to Ben. Typically, we have the board ask questions and then bring the public in to make comments or questions and let the applicants kind of respond at the end. And we're not reviewing this project tonight. It's gonna look and see whether the materials that they've submitted are complete, you know, whether we need more information. And we're gonna have that site visit next week. Go ahead, Bonnie.
Well, I'm looking at the ordinance. And it says major projects shall not be located within 1/2 mile radius of other permitted major or medium solar projects. We know there's one right on the other side. Now, nothing's happening there. But they have applied for that continuance.
They have an active permit.
They have an active permit, so I guess,
Well,
I
that's
don't know
gonna
what we
be,
do.
when we get to the final review, there'll be the question, does this meet our requirements of the ordinance?
Yes.
Anyone else on the board with questions, comments?
Yes. Typically, the arrays, how far away from the wetland, the delineated wetlands?
Which type of one?
How far away, how many feet, okay, are the arrays from the wetlands? Delineated wetlands,
Generally about 20 feet away from the wetlands, because the fence is a couple feet off it in a few spots.
feet away.
So this is gonna require probably a shoreland zoning permit as well. You have to look at, you know, whether I don't know, I think some of those wetlands are considered resource protection under
Down in this side,
this side.
yeah, so we don't have any principal structures within the limits of the shoreline zone, and again, you know, the map of the shoreline zone is quite large.
Yeah.
So I think it's coincident with that item to buffer. A little bit of our limited reserve, basically just this small corner here extends into the fence zone. So we've got a little bit of fence and a little bit of silt fence going there for construction.
And are these planned to be arrays that move with the sun?
Correct, so these will be single axis trackers, so what they're showing right here is the noon orientation when they're flat, where it takes up the most space, but they'll track from east to west throughout the day.
No water, no sewage. Any type of lighting proposed?
No lighting there, usually maintenance is done during the day, and then at night, if there was ever an emergency or maintenance needed, probably wait till the day, but
Yeah.
then they would just set up temporary lights down here at this. Then will be a small pole farm, so they have to have 5 poles for interconnection down by the. Again, any maintenance would be done down there typically during daylight.
And so in terms of vehicular access to this project, after construction, are you talking once a month, once every other month? If someone comes and,
So they'll be required to mow no more than twice per year.
Yeah.
So that will continue. That's generally keeping the road snow plowed in the winter. So periodically, quarterly inspections. is typically the protocol.
From the time you start to the time you finish the construction, about how long a period of time is that?
This project of the size is about 1 construction season, so it take about 6 to 7 months, I would anticipate.
and what's the status with CMP? In terms of connection, are they,
Yes.
that's already been
Yep.
finalized? Is that in the packet or not in the packet?
That wasn't part of that.
Members of the audience, anyone question, comment at this point?
Yeah, again, you mentioned the pine trees, or my pine trees, and they're only getting bigger. And I'd like to see some landscape along that south side of that. There's no trees or shrubs being planted. You're acting as if my pine trees are your barrier. I take exception to that. As they get bigger, as you know, there's a lot of room underneath. I will have from my driveway direct visibility into that south side of the array. You only have a fence, no trees, no shrubs. I understand that. They be added there. Part of what you're doing.
Yeah, I think we're willing to work with you on that and be a good neighbor. One thing would be helpful with your permission is if we could at least access your driveway to take a few photos, we could provide that to our landscape
Can't you
architect.
do that the 18th?
We could, yes, yeah, if that's fine with you. We just, I don't want to go on your
Yeah, I'll be
property.
there on the 18th.
So we can assess that, that's no problem.
Scott?
Can I request some trees or something on that north side? I mean, this thing is, I'm not trying to be negative, but this thing's less than 100 yards from my house.
And you
I
said.
don't wanna get up in the morning and stare at them things. Who
Your
wants to
house is
do
up,
that?
up
We
here.
live in the
Go in
wedge right
trailer
beside
There
it.
on the corner.
So yeah, we are proposing, a whole line of screening right along on the side of the north side. Planted trees.
Any idea of what type of tree you'd be looking to plant?
Yeah, we have we included a planting plan with all the species, in accordance with the ordinance. So it's a mixture of evergreen trees, 4 to 6 feet tall. And then we've also got some shrubs and plants, so the idea is to fill it in and have it grow and provide year-round screening. budget practice. And the ordinance is quite restrictive, but the town has it, and we've met that, and we propose.
I guess my other question is, what the hell is it gonna do to our property value? Because we were right south.
So we have to. That's outside of my area of expertise. I know there's studies that say there's no impact. I think. I can get into my personal opinions, which you probably don't want to hear. You know, solar is a good neighbor. It's quiet once it's in. It's not like
You
that.
say that, but 7 months of hell with 2 dogs barking every 10 minutes because they're out there working. But I'm just asking what it's gonna do, because most people move to our town because they want quiet, they want peace, and right now, we have that, and you're gonna block every view we have of anything but those. Cause it lines pretty much our entire property.
So it affects that property value, because who wants to buy a place that you're looking out and then you've got these monstrous things that are sitting there that are ugly as sin.
Right, I think we could just point back to what the ordinance requires and what's allowed in this area.
Yeah, but I mean, I totally agree with what's being said here. You guys have been around longer than me, so anything I say, I'll take a back seat. I'll put it that way. All you people here. But, you know, one of the concerns I do have is what else would happen to this land if this doesn't happen? Because I want it to remain agricultural wildlife as much as anybody in this room. But my concern with the stewards of this particular property, I wasn't impressed at all about how long it took them to clean up after their fire. Took
Right.
forever. And my concern is if this isn't something that we agree to move forward with, you guys move forward with, what would be next? What will come next? A grocery store on, who knows what could be next? And I'm just throwing that up as, yeah, this is bad. I don't like this any more than anybody here. But it is quiet. There's no trash once it's there. I totally agree with, I'm not happy at all with the view either. I mean, I think there are others.
But I've also heard that on some solar farms, neighbors complain that there's a humming constantly. Okay, well, who wants to listen to humming?
Is that true? Is there humming? You guys should know.
Well, they're inverters, right?
Correct, so there is, on this equipment pad, there will be a transformer and then inverters, and those do generate a sound. But generally, it's more of like a fan sound, it's the fans and the inverters are what cool them down, that generates a sound similar like an air conditioner. But with the setbacks, we're several hundred feet away in an area with traffic, we could show you the calculations, but it'll be similar to
Is there any reason?
during the daylight hours only. It's generating
We've done the calculations for this inverter before that we have spec for this property, and it's typically about from 3 meters away, it's about 50 decibels in sound, with no obstructions like vegetation or a fence line. And that's indoor, 50 decibels is equivalent to indoor talking voices, but with the setbacks, here, and that's why we strategically locate the equipment pad into the center of the site, so it's as far away from the setbacks as possible. It will be well below the 50 decibels.
It's a single inverter for this project, and you have multiple.
This one, off the top of my head, I don't know how many,
Like 3 string inverters.
3 string inverters are.
What's the green represent? Is that more wetland stuff?
Correct, yeah, so that's kind of
Because-
the wet part of the field.
You go out that, so what I saw last year when they cleaned out there, you may have seen it too, I don't know. On the end of that road where your array starts. Yeah, right in there. They dug a pond out through there. So looked to be a pond with an excavator when they were cleaning up. They had a lot of sloppy stuff they were throwing in every direction.
And it was deep enough that they
So-
sunk the
Yeah, they sunk the excavator in there. So is
excavator.
that considered a pond or is that just a simple wetland? I mean, you guys haven't walked yet, so you may not know what I'm talking.
Well, we can look at it when we look. at
Just curious.
Yeah, and all this delineation is done by, our certified wetland scientists that, and they'll stand up to that, and I think that's this area right here.
Yeah, sorry, that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, and that's just a wetland, even if there's a little bit of surface water, it wouldn't be like a natural pond considered anything like
So
that.
I can tell you where you guys have the stakes. There's quite a few spots that you can sink knee deep after an inch of rain. What's that rain gonna do to your equipment? I'm serious, I've walked that field since I was born, and there's spots that you're gonna sink in your perimeter. So you may wanna walk that really nicely before you pinpoint where you're putting stuff, cause that does not look like what I.
No, and what we do geotech, and then we also do full tests on the piles, so it'll be driven piles down these rows, they're generally 3 to 4 feet above the ground, and they go depending on what the soil condition is. 6, 7, 8, 9 feet, so that's all factored into the design. Very little is below ground in a system like this.
Is there any long-term health effects on these things? I mean, I don't want to have to call Joe Bornstein in 10 years because I got cancer from a solar array. I'm just curious. I mean, we live very close to this.
And I heard there's radiation.
How's that? What's the impact?
There's no air emissions from the solar facility or no radiation. Emissions.
Then there's sealed units that nothing leaches out of them. The only oil filled equipment is the transformer, which is dielectric mineral oil. It's the same that's in the service can at your house coming into CMP. So that's all that's really there for chemicals. And then your normal computer type stuff. So, wiring. Most of the panels, it's all aluminum, steel, glass. Very little is really, in systems.
is there any effect to the groundwater in the area of those things?
No.
Because most people, most people probably have artesian wells, well, that area has a lot of dug wells. Well, we have a dug well,
Who the neighbors do as well.
we have a dug well. I'm just wondering if there's any groundwater or any
Like all the metals,
Water.
everything, anything,
issues
because our
with
well
water.
is downhill from all of that.
I mean, it's a tried and true technology. We do these everywhere. We've done them in, sensitive watersheds. I mean, it's been studied. It's beyond, that's beyond my level of expertise, but, this is.
Well, I know,
this is
so the building that was on there burnt. It was old chicken
Exploded.
farm. Yeah, pretty much exploded.
Right.
And my parents live across the road on South Monmouth Road. They live on the corner and their wells were all affected.
Yeah,
And for years, my father's field across the street was affected because all of it washed through the color.
Right.
So I don't want any more of that ground contaminated because it's headed our way next.
Well, if approved, there'd be requirements for screening during construction, silt vents and that type of thing to make sure whatever gets moved around stays on that property.
Can I ask you if you know what the difference would be on one of those arrays, material wise or anything relative compared to what we put on a house roof?
It's similar type of panels.
I mean, it's different in size, but I'm talking,
I mean, between manufacturers, they vary a little bit in influence in them, but by and large, the technology is the same. And you guys are already secured American made panels for these.
Yes, so America has, we're really excited about a deal with First Solar, which is an American-based solar panel manufacturing. Majority of our panels are supplied.
The other big question is what happens when the life of these are over? Who's responsible to clean them up?
They are, an applicant is, so, it's actually a state rule, it's a state law, the solar decommissioning law, so every solar project, 3 acres or larger has to have what's called a decommissioning bond, so. We prepare a decommissioning estimate, and then Solar America, the project entity, has to have financial assurance to do decommissioning a little bit after the life cycle, so. If they went bankrupt or they abandoned it or something bad happened, then there's assurance there to make sure it's taken care of, so. That's an estimate that we prepare, we submit it to the state for review, and then on that financial assurance, the town would be listed as a obligee, and so would the state, so if something happened, there's funds there to pull it out and take care of it and restore the land back to what it was before.
And with these funds, as the bond's done, let's say, next year, okay, you got the bond, is there a calculation for inflation where cost is due 20 years from now, increase to cover those costs?
Exactly, so they're, as part of that requirement, every 15 years, they have to resubmit their financial assurance with a new estimate that shows they're accounting for that. So really, there's that 15-year period you gotta get through. Beyond that, there's
What's the lifespan of the panels or whatever you put in?
25 to 30 years. And do you have a lease term, on this project, or?
No, that's not that.
how does that benefit us landowners surrounding this? What benefit are we gonna get out of this? Are we getting a benefit out of this, or? Like I say, it's like, it's gonna affect our property taxes, is it gonna affect our CMP bills, is it gonna? No,
So this is a community solar project with CMP, so anyone in CMP's service area has the opportunity to subscribe. And
for it.
so that program is run by that part of the program is run by CMP, but if you have the opportunity to enroll in the community solar program.
Could you be a little, if this is a community solar project, then the community, can you explain a little bit more how the community can apply and then get a benefit from that project?
Sure, so again, you know, see, this is CMP territory, so this is the generation that CMP owns all the extension cord. So they facilitate that program. So I'm sure you've seen in your mail, you get the, you know, community solar, sign up here, sign up there. The same thing will happen for this project. So your bill is still through CMP, you still pay CMP directly, but you sign up to get your power and the credits from this power from this project. And typically there's a 10 to 15% savings, sign up for solar compared to standard.
So people who sign up would expect, once the project is up, would expect that their bills would be 10 to 15% lower than they are now because they are taking a part of this. Is that?
You know, we can't guarantee that because CMP still rules the roost when it comes to their rates and things that change. So,
We don't.
I mean, I think there's a benefit to renewable energy in general, and meeting those goals. So, you know, that's obviously one benefit. And then people have seen cost savings, but, you know, we have big storms, we have issues, there's additional upgrades. Anything that's upgraded as a requirement of this project to the grid overall is borne by the applicant. So a lot of these projects are putting money back into the local grid to make those improvements and help with resiliency and power outages. And
One other question, is there a limit to the number of people in the community who can apply to be part of this?
yeah, the way they do it is it's, you know, CMP looks at it in their whole territory. So they have, you know, X amount of renewable energy and the credits that are available for that. And then people sign up. And, you know, as you can tell, the electrons kind of go where they go when it's plugged into the grid. But, I mean, until all of the solar projects in the state are used up, which they're not at this point, then there's opportunities elsewhere. There's opportunities to sign up now without this project because other projects that were built in Auburn or in Augusta or elsewhere.
So is the output of the solar panel, is that output gonna tie into the South Monmouth substation?
Correct, through the distribution line. South Monmouth Road. So it goes into distribution, CMP will have their equipment, they control it, so they'll have a recloser, they'll have a meter to see what's generating. Everything that's paid to the project is based on that, and then that goes back into the grid. And I don't know offhand what's required for upgrades here, because I think that substation they get caught up in cluster studies, so, you know, because that serves a larger area, there could be, you know, 4, 5, 6 projects that are contributed to upgrades of this whole section.
But the output is low enough that it will go over the distribution lines and doesn't have to be a transmission line?
So we actually step up, so the voltage is lower, we come here and
Right.
step up, and that brings us up to distribution voltage.
So you said CMP's putting in all the wiring and the poles,
Correct.
so
They're
they're paying for it?
the applicant pays for that to have the interconnection. They have to, it's ISO New England requirements, so they have to basically manage what comes in and out. So they own the first 2 poles and then the project owns the rest. And then they can shut it off at any time, they meter it, that's kind of part of their system protection.
So what benefit is it to the applicant? What are they getting out of
They make money off the project,
Yeah.
so they sell the power to, basically, they sell the power to CMP and CMP distributes it.
Gotcha.
Everybody makes money by us.
Okay, why don't we,
I got one more question. Relative to the noise level from the inverters, is there a reason why they couldn't be enclosed some if necessary?
It comes down to temperature. So the noise is basically from cooling fans. So that's why they're running as a generating power, this heat generated, and so enclosing them, you know, then you run into other issues with keeping the temperature where it needs to be to operate.
All right, there's no way of absorbing some of that sound if it was required, if you know, we required you to do it.
The ways to do it would be like sound walls, so it would be like a wall of some sort to try to deflect the noise. That's the way we've done it on other projects where there've been closer abutters or really
Okay.
under to absorb the sound.
So there is a way if need be, yeah.
So if we have an Indian summer, it's gonna be loud over there. If the days are hot.
It doesn't vary by temperature, it doesn't vary by time, but the equipment, you know, is tested.
Raise
at
the
the
temperature.
Well, that's why the fans plan is to cool it down, but it's not, they run more because it's hotter, or the fans are louder because it's hotter. And there's only 3 of them on this project, and we can provide calculations to show what the anticipated sound level would be at the property line, if that's helpful, that's not a problem.
There's,
But really, it's very, very quiet equipment, like the transformer is the same that you see at, anytime it goes from overhead to underground, the big green ones that sit on the pads. That's the type of equipment we're talking about. And the inverters themselves are only, they're about, the string inverters are about 2 feet wide by 18 inches rectangle, and they sit on a post. It's pretty small piece.
there's a project that we've approved up on the Ridge Road that has multiple inverters. And we were invited to tour it after they got up and running. And from the road, you couldn't hear it. And even partway down toward it, you couldn't hear it. You'd have to be almost right next to, or within 20 feet really to.
So the homes around it couldn't hear it.
Yeah, none of the, it didn't appear to me to make a lot of noise when we went to that site. So you could run up to the Ridge Road, park there and listen. But I don't think you'll be able to hear much in the way of noise. It's from,
I don't know where we are, you can hear it some nights when it's real still. You can hear it
you
from
can hear the fans.
on the Ridge Road, yeah.
Like,
Cause it didn't start until after they put that up and running.
yeah, because we visited after they were up and running.
Well, I think.
But it may be,
water.
make
Water
wind
between
and topography the road may be higher than the project up on the Ridge Road, but that was one of the things we were interested in when we went up is this generating noise?
Yeah, part of that noise thing also is, I don't know what it is pressure from the atmosphere, whatever.
So,
Good example is typically, I don't hear the trains running by the house that's far enough away, but every now and then, I'd swear they were coming up my driveway.
Yeah, we hear,
People know.
Trained on the fish hatchery, when they come through.
yeah, we hear them almost every night
At
in
night.
here.
So there's something there in the atmosphere that controls how far the sound carries, I guess, or whatever.
Well, I think that's the benefit with solar again is, in the summertime, up until an hour after sunset, it's done, it's shut off, it's not running. So, during the day when cars are out, wind is blowing, noise is around, that little bit of a hum that you might feel to hear when you're, within, 50, 75 feet of it, it's gone, it's drowned out by everything else.
We're gonna have a safety thing. So you don't know that transformers. Block. So how does that affect solar? You got transformers on the wall, does it affect the whole thing? Does it affect? Is there a safety mechanism that stops it from moving on or?
So the type of transformer here is gonna be, liquid cooled, that's what that oil is for, so it has basically a radiator on it. They're all monitored remotely by SCADA. We're gonna have a Knox box, we'll do training with the fire department, so that's a typical procedure. So, and it's really localized to this one spot, it's tried and true equipment. These things are really, so very, very low chance of fire here. The most likely fire is what it would be in the current, a grass fire and a really dry year where you just get those random grass fires, but that's the benefit of around the house, right? That's the benefit of having a monitored site with SCADA and routine. It's years.
Sorry, what did you just say? I didn't hear.
I just said that's the benefit of a monitored site where we can mow, keep the grass low, and we've got equipment that lets them know when something's going wrong. So if they start getting a temperature spike, a reading that's not good, they can go and send someone to check the site, they can shut it off, that there's.
Can they shut it off remotely in the event of something horrible happening?
Yeah. And then usually typical requirement of CMP is a cutoff at the road as well, so they can cut off power themselves here, just. That's further safety.
You say keep the grass low, but you're only mowing a couple times. What do you mean by low? I mean,
Orange.
you mean
Yeah, generally it'll be, they mow twice per year, so, each mowing will be down to about 6 inches. And then they let it grow up till it gets, to 3 to 4 feet high, and they try to time that mowing again, so that they only have to do it one more time before fall.
We'll use a native vegetation, and pollinator friendly seed mix. So it has a deep root system and helps with stormwater management. And attracts more pollinators into the area.
What happens outside of the fence area? Is that mowed or what?
That would refer back to what the landowner does. Soul America would mow around their perimeter to, make sure their fence is clear, there's nothing wrong with it. But outside of
Basically,
that, it's.
that'll continue to mow what he can mow.
Right. And down here's all that. It's all this fix it.
So inside of it, the vegetation and stuff. You don't put down any kind of chemical to slow down the growth. That's going to seep into. It's all gonna be just natural, let it grow.
Now, the ordinance requires that there not be pesticides used that are not kind of biologic.
Animals are safe.
Yeah.
That lower end, the way you said it was wet down there on that other corner, that does get bush hog. When he can get to it. It's not every year, but he tries.
Okay, let's just go through and just make sure what we've received and what may be outstanding. We've got the plan, and it looks like the requirements for the plan, acreage, lot lines, dimensions, setback. We don't have any issue with water supply, sewage disposal, that issue. Natural features have been identified. Limits of forested and open areas are to be delineated that are gonna be cleared. Landscaping screening areas, location, dimensions, street locations. That's one of the issues may or may not come up are the spawning grounds and wildlife habitat. I know we have a letter from Fish and Wildlife, I think, or Conservation. But they kind of limit what they're aware of, so I don't. At this point, we may have to look at the sand crane issue, but I don't know.
I'd be happy to reach out to IFW directly about Fanhill cranes if they have any concerns.
Yeah, that might be a good idea just to cover that, but I think as far as the plan itself, it looks to be,
I have something to add to this. So, the Rennies, the next place down from us, they're planning on putting one in their back field and supposedly they're gonna be tied together. Are you guys doing that project there too?
I don't think that's come up yet.
They just got an email today, Cindy just told me about it. So there's, I don't know if you guys have gotten that permit application yet or
we
not.
have no other, we have one in North Monmouth that may be forthcoming, but we haven't gotten any others. I know there's several places in town that people have granted options on that haven't come to the planning board yet. Okay,
But I don't care about that one, it's hidden.
I think we got the soils information. Sewage disposal, as I say, water supply, we don't need that. Soil erosion sedimentation control plan, you've submitted. Phosphorus control plan. I did hear from Bill Monagle, he hasn't, from Cobussy Watershed, he hasn't completed his review yet, but he told me he has the information that you provided. I expect he'll come to the site visit. It's his sort of requirement to get that next step to whether he has any, Cobussy Watershed has any issues or concerns with storm management or phosphorus. Traffic study, I don't think we need, not gonna, other than the construction, it's not gonna generate really much traffic. We have in the past sort of put conditions on sort of the construction activity just to make sure during those times that there's some coordination with the police department in terms of traffic and anything that might cause a hazard. We've gotten most of the written review comments. I know you sent something this week. I think I forwarded it to you, did I? Forward it to everybody. Was it? I don't think so. Did you submit something this week? Trying to remember, maybe I'm confusing the projects. Let's see if I. But there was another report that came in.
We might have CC'd you on the NERPA video, so
Maybe that was it.
that went up.
Yeah, maybe that was it. Yeah, the DEP filing. This. We'll be looking, of course, for the permits you've applied for. We've got the application fee. The performance guarantee will come later. Did make a written request for a waiver, but it was more on the performance standards, which we're not able to give, which we addressed at the last meeting. Site inspection coming up.
Will there be anyone from, is it IF&W who would be discussing about the Sandhill cranes?
Yeah, if you look at attachment 3, oh, not attachment 3, attachment 6. Agency. There is a letter from Agriculture, Conservation and Forestry. And, you know, they left sort of the door open. If there's something we're concerned about, we can reach out, or the applicant can reach out.
There used to be Sandhill cranes in the area on the bridge, and they were there for several years. They haven't been back in the last, they're gone.
I believe that's what,
Probably
those are the
moved
ones that
down
are
the
house. So there was 2 for the first 2 years, then there was 3. Last year there was 5.
There were more than
There's
5.
Oh, there
There's
was.
1 5. I had them across the road. I got pictures and videos on this, 7 or 8.
Yeah, well, but I just, it's just odd. They were there, now they're not. And if they found another home, good.
Right.
No.
But the noise disturbance is probably what drove them off. I've read a lot about them because at first I thought they were emus. Like they looked like emus.
Well, they're,
Somebody called me, they're like,
Glad to
somebody's
know.
emus are out, and I'm like, what? So I looked at them, they do, they have like, it looks like hair feathers.
yeah, and they make an odd sound,
Yeah, it's almost like a turkey, it's weird.
odd sound, but,
I did a lot of research on them and noise is what drives them off.
well, but the construction is over and they've never come back, so,
Well, when we get to the actual review, we'll talk about
okay.
some more of these, but at this point, right? No. In terms of completeness, we know we need the information from obviously Watershed District Review. Gonna want to see the permits or DEP and so forth, but I think at this point, anyone feel there needs to be more information, or is the application complete?
Make a motion, the application.
Can I ask, help me out, please? I'm sorry to interrupt. Like with the decibel noise, where does that get addressed?
That's a performance standard.
Okay.
So the site review ordinance has a section on noise. And so it's measuring decibels from the kind of the boundary of the property. And there are certain limits allowed for different times a day. So evenings, it's a lower level, say that.
So we will address it.
So that will get addressed. So all we're doing now is just determining, have they given us the information that we need just to go forward, do our site visit,
Yeah.
come back to the next meeting and kind of do a more comprehensive review. I think we may want to reach out to inland fisheries and wildlife just to get a assessment of the crane issue, whether it's an issue for them or not. But I think for now, the issue is completeness. Dave made a motion that it's
I'll second it.
Larry second. All in favor? So we'll do the site visit next week.
Times the site visit.
It's 5:30. And probably from the South Monmouth access. I mean, we can always drive around if we need.
I was gonna say, I don't know if
You're
they're gonna be able to get there without them putting in something, because it's all wet.
So if we go, it's easier to access through
So if you
Hatchery.
I would access through South Monmouth and park on the pad.
Yeah,
park on the
That's
pad,
pretty
but
good.
come through, like,
Pretty good road across.
if you're
there.
looking at the pad, come across through the right side, because that left, we used to walk through to get to my grandmother's, and it's always wet.
Yeah, but they've added into that.
All right.
There's still a big,
Is it gonna be raining next Thursday?
I mean, who knows, it might be snowing.
hopefully we've had our fill of snow.
Yeah.
Oh, it says snow, right? Does it?
I hear lousy weather.
It'll
Next
probably be
week.
95 and snowing.
No, mostly cloudy.
Okay.
It changed.
Yeah, I think we'll be all set.
I would highly suggest rubber boots in there now, and that field is saturated.
Yeah, good luck. Oh, yeah.
So,
All right, good, Will.
You would like us to reach out to IFW and ask about Sand Hill Crane?
That may be a good idea. You know, we both might follow up, but
That's
you
fine, we're
wanna,
happy to do
yeah.
that. I just wanna make sure, hopefully we can get some information.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know that they're considered a threatened species or not. I think a lot of people in town are aware they're there. Okay, we'll see you next week then. All right, we'll move on to our next item agenda, which is the Monmouth Academy renovation project. Right next door.
Yes, if you don't know where it is, you can look out the window. We have this?
I don't.
You've got one?
We got them.
We've got them already, and there's also a map, the architectural plans are there. You may or may not be familiar with the building. Oh, sorry. There's my front to back. Got a little. But, so I just brought in the exterior and then the interior plan, but I believe you have a huge roll of plans that, and I have the architect with us tonight, so fire away, whatever questions you may have.
Excuse me, can you chat outside?
Harry's.
Sorry, apologize.
I wanted to give us just a general overview what the plan is. I mean, for the use of the building, what's it gonna be?
So we plan on being able to have our meetings over there, voting in there. Anybody could rent it for a baby shower, a wedding reception. There's a catering kitchen, so there won't be any stoves or flames or anything like that, just where people can plug in crock pots or have chafing dishes, anything like that. So that's the type of catering kitchen we're gonna have, but it'll be, flow in and out, so we'll be able to facilitate voting there as opposed to this space, which gets pretty cramped at times. There'll be audio visual to be able to have events in there. If the school wanted to use it for a performance, or if somebody wanted to have a wedding reception there, we kept the home economics pad, so those like in quote outdoor space. And that any sort of event that wants to go on in there, we're open. There will be a rentable space like we do with Tungsten. So hopefully, if Dennis agrees, Dennis will oversee, managing
This one as well.
this one as well for us.
You're talking one story?
Oh, yes, there's only one story. The second floor we will not be able to go up the wooden stairs any longer. Because they're long gone, and that will hold all the utilities, the heating, that type of thing. So we chose not to spend money on the second floor needing a elevator or 900 square feet for $100,000 elevator. We chose not to do that.
And parking is gonna be,
Parking will be over in this area, and we're going to, when the landscaping and parking is done, it'll be here and there is another landscape plan that's totally separate that we've kind of played with, what we might do or something else, and the parking would be between these two buildings to access that.
see, I think, so technically, any site review project, we also have to kind of consider what the parking area you propose is. So that, like, there is a plan that shows sort of the building dimensions and the parking lot dimensions. And whether that parking lot is gonna be lit or not.
The civil plans, I think, would have been the original application. I don't know if you printed them. I just saw the architectural. Basically, the project is kind of getting split into phases based on funding,
Yeah.
whether it's fundraising or federal loan. And so infrastructure and parking isn't necessarily part of the first phase. You've obviously seen the demo and
Yeah.
some of the restoration that's gone on over there. So we would consider that phase one. And I think mostly for the designation of these phases, we want to get the building occupiable and then focus on infrastructure as more funding comes in the future. So there is a comprehensive landscaping plan, and there's also a civil plan that shows some temporary parking. But the civil will go, the landscaping will go more in depth, and there will be and parking, and I imagine we'll do a separate site plan review for that when the
When
time
the time
comes.
comes. So at this point, you're just hoping to get the kind of the structure approved, the renovation.
And all of the exterior grading is going to be repaired from the construction, the demolition and reconstruction of the parts of the building and structure. So landscaping wise, for at least this phase 1.5 kind of thing we've been calling it internally, will be built up to the pre-existing conditions, except for at the new accessible doorway. And instead of doing a ramp into the building, because no one likes ramps, they big and bulky. We're gonna grade up to the entrance so that you have an accessible slope into the back of the building. That will be the only exception on changes for exterior landscaping in the initial phase.
I'm a bit confused because I believe those were not too many years back when the town was looking what they were going to be able to do with that building, that they said that it was basically way too much money to do anything with, and the best plan they could come up with was to take it down. So I don't know how we got from that point to this point where they're gonna rehab it. And I'd be really concerned that the Monmouth population isn't gonna get saddled with the bill.
So, and that was probably a discussion before I came on personally, but I imagine that would be in reference to the whole school building as a whole. Rather than just the old original Academy Hall. So we were brought on, and I think in the very beginning, we did some cost analyses on what could potentially be done. And the best way to move forward is to make a multi-purpose space, completely separate of the old building, which has been torn down, obviously. And in doing so, we're making a one-story community space, which would also save money, like Chris said, on elevators and other amenities that would be used for a larger space. So like I said, I can't really speak to the conversations that were happening before we came on board. But we had an initial budget in the beginning, and through a little bit of inflation of COVID, construction prices increased about 175% over the past 3-4 years. So the budget got stretched a little bit, but we're not hitting anything major. And at least in this phase 1.5, like I said, pre-landscape plan, pre-parking, pre-infrastructure on the exterior, we're within our budget so far. And that's something that the town has set aside with fundraising. I'm not sure on the.
Is there a warrant item?
There will be a warrant article to get the building to completion. So, originally, there was a warrant article in 2021, I believe, I want to say. Don't quote me on that, because the years run together. And that was to whether or not you wanted to spend money to do the restoration and keep the old academy. And that's what the voters voted for, to save the old academy. And so anybody on board with this project thought that the best part of the structure, the oldest part of the structure, was what we saved. The worst part of the structure was the concrete block structure and the gymnasium that was torn down. The original academy from 1856 is triple brick. I mean, they don't make buildings like that anymore. And it is in an amazing shape if the roof had been kept up on it.
But it was not.
But that was not under our purview. That was under the RSU's purview, so.
That was for 1 point, what?
It was 1.5, and then we got 200,000 from the sale of the control school, so it was 1.7. And we spent over 400,000 on demo. So essentially that brought us back to like 1.3-ish through fundraising. I've been able to raise just under 70,000, well, it's about 68,000 at this point in time. So we've raised that part as well. So the warrant article that will be on this year, because we know we don't have enough to get to a certificate of occupancy, that's why I haven't asked Ernie for a plumbing permit at this point in time. We would not be able to go in there and use the building when we meet the end of the money we have from that first go around. So we would not have any plumbing because we don't have enough money to get to that point. And
So between that.
700?
700.
So between that point and the amount you need to finish it, you're gonna ask the town residents to foot that bill?
We're asking, there's a warrant article on there for 700,000.
That's a yes, then.
Yes.
And to tag on to that, what we're gonna do with the remaining funds of this initial phase is get basically everything up to a point where it's very easy to come back in and finish that all efficiently as possible. So that's sort of where the rest of the allocation of this funds is going.
But we still don't have landscaping yet,
Parking lot.
or landscaping.
And this, from our standpoint, since it's a town project, we wouldn't be charging any kind of fee for our review.
Yeah, 4 million, I think is enough.
Are there any grants out there? for
Yes,
this?
Steve Eldridge has volunteered his time to help me because I was the one trying to figure this out.
Yeah.
And as I say, I'm just a dental hygienist and grants weren't in my wheelhouse. So Steve Eldridge has been very helpful. And that's where, you know, the federal LFCW, I always forget which alphabet soup that is.
There's 6 letters.
So, you know, he's looking at another separate whole thing about getting, you know, a recreation area up here. And that is a whole separate plan, but to get the building so that we can flush a toilet
Yeah.
and actually use the space, because we're already paying for that initial bit of money. I mean, so the choices are, do we have a building that we're paying for that we can't use because we can't flush a toilet? Or do we finish it and use it? So, you know, that's the option. And with that first ask, that is, that has the ability for early payment. So if we do get grants in, we can use it to pay that down, where the second portion would be a bond, which doesn't allow for prepayment.
Yeah.
So, but we do have that ability that we could use whatever we continue to grant and fundraise for on that first chunk.
But that bond would have to be taken out by the town also.
Yes.
So that would be an additional cost to the taxpayers.
Well, it's that the bond, it's on the warrant, so people will be able to vote yes or no, whether they want to have it done. So,
But people have already voted to save the
save the
building.
building, yes.
That's, okay.
I have a question for the architect. Are you listing this building as public assembly?
Yes.
At what capacity?
So initially, before we do the second access, we'll have a limit of 100. After that, it can exceed that limit.
Okay, sprinklers?
No.
Public assembly over 50? Sprinkled.
Two exits.
I see you've changed the size of the exits out to the back. Right now they're 30 inches. I see 6'8". Is that correct?
With that.
The two exits going out to the entrance, to the back entrance, from the main hall. Those two doorway mounds are 30 inches wide.
This is
You can't have a public assembly building with 30-inch doors is what I'm getting at. And they're 30-inch doors now.
right. They'll be made 36 minimum. Everything there.
Okay, so this plan is not correct.
It has changed.
Well, we need an exact plan. I'm
Well, I
sorry.
printed this, so.
Oh, okay. I'm just looking.
Sorry, but the whole.
You got me in there and now all I'm doing is my head spinning because this isn't what I saw.
Well, I'm sorry, this is what I printed that we had at
Yeah, this
that,
is-
so,
Yeah.
okay. So
Well,
blame me
the
for-
construction is done in there at the doorways at 30 inches. So you're ripping that out and doing
It's
something
not
else.
done. They took a break for the winter and Nick O'Day, the contractor, is gonna be coming back to do some additional interior work between, I think, end of April.
Okay. Can I get a copy of the fire marshal's application?
Yeah.
Okay, can you bring that back?
Yeah,
Because that's going to tell me whether you need sprinklers or not.
yes.
So for the record. I've never seen a public assembly building without sprinklers. I'm sorry. I've never seen it. So if you got it, that's fine. But,
We've done restaurant facilities with an occupancy of under 100.
okay, but you just said that it could be more than 100.
Yes.
You just said it tonight.
Into the app-
So please, don't say something that you don't mean or build to it to what you mean. Okay? I can't be wishy-washy. You know, I'm sitting on this board, I'm trying to get the most accurate information I can. And we have knowledgeable people here. So you can't try to slide something. If you say something, we're gonna take it to the bank. So be careful.
Well, as a preliminary matter, we have an application. Do we have a motion to accept the application?
Well, we do. I've got a question. Why are we doing 117 Academy Road with that structure when this is 117?
Yes, because I asked what we should use for the address, and I don't know what that address is. If you look at the deed, I think it says 169. Or some crazy number, but that's not even close, because if this is 117, the numbers, I think there was a renumbering, so you can't even go by the deed. So when we've discussed about what to use, we said we'll use 117 because it's on the same lot and the town owns this whole lot, so I don't know what the
Between
address is. I
one
think it
twenty-nine and
had-
117,
at-
because Public Works is 129,
Yes.
because the
And you got,
Trailblazers building is 129A.
Yes.
now you got the fairground.
Yeah,
So in
exactly.
between those two, we have to have a number.
So-
And that'll be up
This
to the
is
codes
how
officer
maybe
to tell you.
we got two buildings here.
So, you know, we came up with, let's use 117 because the parking lot is the same. So let's just use 117. Everybody knows that this is this building and that's the old academy, so.
I'll talk to Andy, you should talk to Andy, we'll get a number.
I think it was like 101 or something, but that can't be that even anymore. I mean, years ago, it used to be 101. So I think there was a whole renumbering at some point in time.
Before I move forward beyond this, I want an address.
Well, the first step is to accept the application. We have a motion to accept the application.
I'll make a motion to set the application where, one, make sure that we get the correct address. Taken care of because 911 did the thing.
We have a second?
I think it's missing too much stuff.
Well, just to accept it. Well, all we're doing is accept it. It's not completeness.
Okay. I'll second it that it's, that
We
we're
accept
here
it.
tonight and
Yeah.
listening to it, yes.
Okay. All in favor of accepting the application? So it sounds like we sort of need a updated plan for the building.
You have the whole entire plans that are updated.
Oh, so the plans at the office
Yes,
are,
they are.
and they
There's
have
a-
the
a-
doorways that,
Yes, and I mistakenly printed off
Yeah.
something that I had. So,
so at this point, though, your plan is not to do anything until the town vote.
well, they will be doing some building over there, so
Because you have some funds to,
yes.
so what type of activities are gonna have, say, happen between now and the town meeting? Just,
I would assume they're gonna be, the doors are in. There's gonna be more,
Exterior.
yes, the exterior doors are in,
Replaced.
yeah.
And then drywall prep and temporary lighting, I believe are the last couple of things that are.
That's really up to Andy if he wants to do it without a building permit. That's, you know, he can go like this and say, yeah, go ahead and keep going. It's not really up to us to do that.
because, yeah, because you're just gonna work on the structure that exists there now.
Exactly. So that was the confusion here about building permit, site application.
Yeah,
You needed a site application,
You
not
know,
the building permit
Yeah.
guy.
chicken, egg,
Yeah.
what comes first,
Yeah.
so.
so, yeah, so we can approve, you know, get to the point where we can approve the use of a site for whatever, multi-assembly use or whatever. I guess I'd like to look at the plans too, just to, but I mean, we can talk to Andy, but I think any work you want to do in the building now, he'll probably say, okay. But we have to,
I didn't think he could say okay until you had the site application.
Well, we have it.
That's what I'm
All we
confused.
did is approve the site application.
Okay.
We haven't approved any project yet.
right, so that will be the
Just
next,
this piece of paper is approved,
Yeah.
that we're gonna, we all agreed to hear this application.
so
Okay,
probably at the next meeting, we would review the plan for the building, what we'll call phase one. Right?
Then they would have to come back
And then you'll have to come back for whatever phase two and phase three for kind of the site work and parking area. Because there are certain standards, like for the parking, I mean, the ordinance says so many parking spaces per
X number of people.
Yes.
X number of people. You know, if there's gonna be lighting, the lighting has to be shielded. This is gonna tie to the sewer,
it's already tied in,
it's tied in,
it's done.
we have stormwater
yeah,
to look at. A couple of little things, but.
right. So we usually ask, you know, when you get to the the outside site work, we usually have Cobussy Watershed kind of look and say, is this gonna create any issues for the lakes and streams and so forth, so. But I think what we'll do is come back to the next meeting, May meeting, and kind of look at the building, approving the building sort of build out. That makes sense to you folks,
You would bring.
because we have to notify,
Well, all the plans are in a U-Haul box this big. I gave them all to Andy. Andy has all those plans. They're this thick and.
I can print a set of copies for 5, 6.
well, yeah, I mean, I always like to get an electronic version if you have it. I don't know if you've got it scaled down, just, but we have plans at the,
There was a box of plans.
Yeah.
There's a box of plans there, because I personally gave them to
Yeah,
Andy.
yeah.
when-
I was there. I mean, I've
Yeah.
seen them, so,
and we can look at
but
those.
they're full-size plans.
Right, so we should have them here at the next meeting.
Or scaled down plans, and at least we'll get one of those sets, or two of those sets here of the big ones, in case somebody's here wants to look at them.
I can do a full set and then some scaled down ones.
Yeah,
that'll be great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so we have to send out notices to abutters. That's why we can't really at the first meeting even approve it, but anyone within 500 feet has to get a notice. Which I guess the town will absorb the cost of that. I mean, a lot of the, the RSU and, I mean, a lot of the property is public, right? The Cumston, the Fair Association,
Well, it's Cumston Park is owned by the town.
yeah.
There are 3 private.
Must be some of the backside.
Linda Johnston, the Griffiths property, Gene Coltart, and then, Guy Piper. But everything else is either municipal
Yeah.
or RSU, so.
What's the first house that way? Yes, the school.
That's Fox.
Fox.
That's right, Fox.
Fox has to be
If
notified.
he's within 500 feet,
Fox is right across the street. Well, diagonally across.
yeah.
Right across from the plow.
Yeah, I have no idea how far 500 feet is. If you told me it was from here to.
I think if you got to
Every
Fox,
I'd
I
be
think
like,
you're
okay,
covered
that's
all the
it.
way around, because it's all woods and fields. Just get that last one.
That's still Academy Road, correct?
Yes.
Yeah. I don't think we need to do a site visit. We're right here.
I've been in, I've been
Did
in.
did I hear you correctly that you're gonna start doing drywall?
Yes, well, roughing, not mudded, not sanded, not painted.
Well, because you need to get a insulation inspection.
And you probably need to get the information from the fire marshal as to whether or not you're gonna need sprinklers and that in there, because you wouldn't want to put drywall up and then have to tear it out to run the pipes.
And the reason we're putting in drywall, just to be clear, is that we're building an interior perimeter of insulation so we meet the ICC 2021 code minimums for a commercial building.
Because it's brick.
There was nothing there.
Darcy, do you have enough information on the butters, do you think? To send out notices?
I'll just take a picture of what he's got. Yeah, this piece of paper is there.
Got it right here.
I don't know.
The only thing you have to add is her is comments there.
Oh.
Yeah.
It's Fox on it, that's all.
Okay. Yeah, because I did it.
You can get this.
Yeah.
Okay, so we'll send out notices and the second Thursday of May is our next meeting. Anything else?
The 9th,
Sounds about right. I don't know if I can have that copy back that.
yes.
Yeah.
I make a motion.
Just jot it down, Curtis Fox on it, so.
Yeah, all right.
And between now and then, you want me to reach out to Andy to get a actual number of that building?
I'll talk to him.
Dave, are you gonna tell me? Are you gonna keep it a secret?
I will. Gosh. It's unbelievable sometimes, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We need a new phone, we know that.
We need a new form?
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll talk about that.
Anything else?
No, that's good for tonight. Thank you for coming in.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank Christian for starting us up.
Yeah, no problem. So all I have to do now is end the recording and then end meetings, so.
Well, we can do that.
We can do that.
We got a couple more items. We're good at turning it off. It's turning it on.
Getting it on.
It's getting it on. We have the problems with. Thank you for coming in.
Thank you very much.
So other business, I forgot to add some items here.
Okay.
I need to get together with Andy to kind of get down the square footage numbers on the building permits. I was gonna look at my notes. Did we say something like 13 cents square foot? What were we?
Yeah, anywhere from 12 to 20 some odd cents.
We put that in the last set of minutes, but that's,
Listen, write it down, so it must not have been.
I don't know that I think we said I was gonna get back and well, I'll get with him. We've talked about some other things, but not about that. We want to get that. I think we talked about two different rates. One rate for the third-party inspections and one rate for the ones the CEO does, right? Is that right as far as that went? Let's see if I have something written.
This is the only one I have.
Yeah, I mean, we didn't pin it down.
That
No,
wasn't square footage, that was.
no, we were only doing on the building permit.
Okay.
The
This is not
two
building permit,
fees
this
we
is
wanted to pin
subdivision, site
down
plan.
were when someone asks for an extension of a permit, whether code enforcement or planning board. And then for the building permit, what the fees are gonna be for third party and for, you know.
A lot of town is gonna set the fee for the third party.
No. What the building permit's gonna cost the applicant for the town.
Oh, okay.
Right now, like, small project, she's only charging $25. As far as the town goes. So, you know, he's basing it on value, but what the selectman told him was very, very small. And it wasn't enough to keep the office lights on. So that's why he's asking to see if we can get some more money, but the third party's getting more money. Are we?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't think.
Right, look at my gasoline.
Yeah.
You ever see my gas bill?
No.
Insurance bill?
No,
Yeah.
so the other thing that happened is I had a meeting with Andy, Justin, and Isabel Oshley,
Mhm.
who's doing the comp plan work. And to have her come on board as the town planner. We've got Justin has got some money in the budget for the next fiscal year beginning July 1. So the meeting we had was sort of to talk about what we would have her do. And I think we're gonna have her maybe zoom in at the next meeting. It's gonna change things, I think, significantly. So she will receive the applications. She'll have contact with people who are planning on doing things so she can give them information. And she's gonna determine if applications are, well, she's gonna make recommendations as to whether applications are complete or what might be needed. And so when we come into a meeting now, we're gonna have something from her. And that may shorten our review times because she's gonna do a lot of the preliminary legwork.
Sounds like what I did 3 years ago.
Exactly, exactly. And because we don't have, so it's gonna allow Andy, I think, to spend more time. We won't have to do stuff with the planning board except as we need him to consult with us on something.
That makes a heck of a lot of sense, because he doesn't have time to do what he's mandated to do. So
Right.
if we pull 10 minutes away from him, it's a lot. So don't, yeah, I wouldn't rely.
Yeah, the other thing that's gonna be a positive is they've got a new contract for a software system to keep track of permits, both for the planning board and the code enforcement officer. And that's gonna, I think, be a positive. They haven't, I don't know that they've signed it yet. They're still reviewing it.
The one he has now is not due until June,
Yeah,
which is 5,000. And what you can get now for 5,000 is a lot more than what I got for 5,000 20 years ago.
right. So I think that's that's gonna be a positive thing. I mean, I wanted Isabel to talk to kind of everybody so they understand that she's gonna be, giving us sort of a lot of guidance, maybe. She'll draft findings when we get to the end. So that will help on decision making.
Will she zoom in on our meetings
Um,
or only when asked?
Well, only when asked is what we've talked about at this
Okay.
point. We're trying to figure out how many hours this is gonna be. I think the town may limit her to 10 or 12 hours a month. And,
That's about right, though. What I usually.
yeah. And she does this for Orono now. She might do something for Durham. So she's supposed to send something to Justin, kind of a contract. Justin said if we need something before July, he can probably find some money for her to help us if we get another big project come in. Or if we need help on Lake Star or something else.
Good,
But I think that's gonna,
be much better.
I think it's gonna set us up better for the future.
So we'll have her there and Darcy here, and between the two, we'll get everything we need.
Yeah, wow.
And no mix-ups with boxes and go sign something, or pick
Yeah.
up something and.
But I think it's, I mean, from my standpoint, the way it's gonna help me is I get 2 or 3 emails or calls a month. People wanting to do stuff. And whereas Dave used to field most of these calls or call me if he needed to, now I seem to get them all. It's, but, she'll be able to handle that, I think.
Perfect.
She'll be,
And she knows her stuff.
yeah, in terms of ordinance, and I also talked about ordinance stuff, and I think Justin's position is, once we get the comp plan done, there may be some ability for her to kind of help on going through some of the ordinances. As you mentioned, Ray, I think some of our forms need to be updated. But I think first things first is getting her in here to kind of help deal with the public and the applicants.
The applications are so generic, but they had to be back then. They don't have to be as generic now. We can sort of figure it out. Because don't forget, these people were coming into the office and sitting across from me, filling it out. So if there was, well, what do I put here? They would know. Whereas now they leave it blank or they put the wrong information.
Yeah.
So,
Well, the town office gives a shoreline zoning permit application for a subdivision or
Yeah.
whatever.
because they don't know. They
Yeah.
don't know.
So I think that's a positive.
It's a great positive.
The, if you go to the town website, there is a survey that the comp plan committee has put out to get new information. So if everyone can kind of look at that. Tell people around town, there's paper copies in the town office and at the library if someone doesn't want to fill out the survey, but there's a link right on the town website has been reconfigured a bit.
A bit, a lot.
A lot.
Yes.
Hopefully that will be better, but. The other thing that came in this week was the DEP application for whatever it's called now, Jellystone in the brook.
Oh, I thought it was the Beaver Brook.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so that was a
Is that
DEP.
Jellystone?
Joey.
Yeah, it's called it's, yeah.
Oh, okay.
So they've just put in for DEP approval. So we may see something shortly.
Isn't most of that in Wayne though?
Leeds and Wayne has more,
Yeah.
but they're talking about some build out in Monmouth.
Yeah, there's seven
Seven
or eight cabins or 7 or 8 structures in Monmouth. They were working on trying to get some money for the COVID too.
Yeah,
I don't know if that ever materialized or not.
yeah, we haven't really heard anything on that. The other thing I heard is that the people who had come in for a pre-app on the campground in Cocknowagon, their plan is first to do a subdivision. But they're not quite ready to file it, but we might be seeing that the next month or two.
So is that off Packard?
Yeah, yeah. I think the subdivision, I don't know how many lots, I mean, it's. I think Paul Root is working with them on that. So
I
that.
feel sorry for them.
They came in a while back
Who's looking?
and had 3 or 4
Whole group, you know.
houses. Oh, I don't know.
Yeah, a subdivision, get rid of the campground, a bigger subdivision would be, they would have no trouble with the neighbors.
Yeah, well, I don't know what they're,
It's all the boat traffic through the swamplands is what their people are complaining.
well, they may have, I don't know what the road access is. You know, whether that road,
They don't have the sight line, number one, where their entrance is proposed. Because it's on a curve. For backing in trailers.
On curve.
Well, that's like years ago, we were gonna do one on Cobbossee off of Sanborn Road.
Same thing.
You know, there's the same thing. Those roads
So-
were made
Well,
to
that's,
have.
that's good, and let them put in for a subdivision.
well, as I say, I think, see, when they came in, their plan was to raise money for this other campground by selling off some lots.
Right. That's what
So I think that's what they're still proposing, but I don't know. We haven't got anything official, so. Discuss any merits, yay, nay.
We can shut the recording.
Yeah. So, yeah.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Oh, yeah, we just do that part.
8:35.